Welcome to Bringing Romans to Life. I'm Pression Burrows, and in this lesson we'll consider the Christian's call to be a living sacrifice, as well as the role of love in guiding Christian behavior. We've reached Romans chapter 12, which in many scholars' opinions is the start of a new section in this letter. It is the paranetic or instructional section in which Paul presents the implications, those practical implications of the theological insights he's presented up to this point. So chapter 12 fleshes out some of the ways in which God's people are to live good and holy corporate lives. As I explain elsewhere, I consider God's salvific relationship with creation to entail two intertwined acts. And those acts are justification, or the process of making all things right in right relationship with God and one another, and the process of glorification, which is God's work of making things alive, flourishing, and renewed. In chapter 12, verse 1, we learn that as those who have received God's mercies in justification, we in turn offer ourselves as living sacrifices. This is one implication of God's project of making alive. In this way, I believe Paul highlights the importance of the body and its activities to the Creator God. By urging the Christians in Rome to present their individual bodies to God, they offer God a sacrifice that is living, holy, and acceptable to God. And they may engage in this form of liturgical service or worship to God even while they are far from Jerusalem and its temple. Whether in Rome or anywhere in the world, their liturgical service occurs continually, since the sacrifice, their own bodies, do not die, but they remain alive. This is an illustration of God's work of making alive. In order for God's people collectively to discern what is God's good, pleasing, and complete will, they must attend to the ways in which they are being influenced. In Romans 12:2, Paul tells the Jesus followers to resist being conformed to this age. Note, the Greek word Paul uses here is the word for age, not this world. And that contradicts what the NRSV and CEB versions present. If we think back to what Paul said in chapter 5, verses 12 through 21, this age is likely that time period of the past that extends into the present that remains under the dominion of sin and death. So it's continuing to exercise some influence, but it's not going to continue forever. And the Christians are instead to deliberately undergo transformation, and they transform into the new age, the age of the living Lord, by the process of mental renewal. As they allow their minds, their thinking and assumptions about the world to be shaped by the new age's dominion of life, grace, and righteousness, they will be able to discern that which is good, pleasing, and perfect. Now, we may wonder why communal discernment is so important. Well, recall that the Gentiles, in Paul's view, are not obligated to obey the law. But without the commands of God, they and their Jewish siblings probably wonder how the Gentile Christians are to learn what is right, good, and pleasing to God. How are they to learn how to live in faithfulness to God? Remember that these Jesus followers do not yet have the New Testament, so they depend on discernment and inspiration. As I explain elsewhere, A crucial part of renewing the mind involves humility, not regarding oneself too highly. Rather than assessing human abilities, Paul suggests that the true measure by which Christians should evaluate themselves is faith. Verse 3 could be interpreted to indicate that God distributes faith to persons in different amounts. More likely, however, it suggests that God gives people faith as the proper standard or measure of judgment. Paul exhorts the diverse members of the Christian collectives in Rome to employ their diverse set of gifts in ways that are in right relation to their faith. Or in keeping with Paul's catchphrase used elsewhere in this letter, we might say that we serve from faith, from a posture of faith, no matter what it is that we're doing. Throughout the rest of Romans 12, Paul presents a staggering list of dispositions, actions, and characteristics that should mark the Christian community. Foundational to them all is love, and this love is to be unhypocritical. 12:9. God's people are to love with integrity. What's more, they are to abhor the evil, do the good, serve the Lord with zeal, express joy, have patience, persevere in prayer, be generous to the holy ones or the saints, look for ways to be hospitable, bless persecutors, be empathetic, rejoice with those rejoicing, weep with those weeping, live in harmony and peace, and resist vengeance. Do no evil, but overcome evil with good, and feed enemies. What a powerful challenge for our individual and communal lives today. In the next chapter, Paul will consider how the Jesus followers are to do all of this in their wider socio-political situations. But for now, please reflect on chapter 12 in the Living Scripture Community Forum.